Welcome to Keeping Score. I'm Rick Horrow. Each week we bring you insights from the playmakers, deal makers, and rule makers in the world of sports. I'll give you my take on some of the items of the week using my 30 years of experience doing deals for teams, leagues, and players in the $750 billion business of sports. Plus, we'll talk with a central figure in the sports world. The views expressed in this podcast are my own and do not represent the views of Reuters. Let's get started. Super Bowl 51, NRG Stadium, expected to bring about $500 million for the city of Houston and the environs. They don't get it every year. They get it every few, and you could tell as we are in downtown Houston that the real key is this is a city that's prepared to have a huge mega event. We're all about the NFL all the time today, and the global digital editor, I hope I continue to get that right for us, Dan Colarusso. Did I get it right this time or not?
You got it right. You got that right, and you got that the Super Bowl is the only story in sports this week. Yeah, everything's bigger in Texas, right? And the Super Bowl likely to follow that path.
Well, the only people that are unhappy running around here at Media Row today and otherwise are the Oakland Raiders because they thought they had a ticket to go to Vegas. And as we know, there are some glitches in a Vegas plan that may derail the deal. What do you know?
I only know what I've read, and I hope you're going to enlighten me. But it seems like there's a conflict between the Raiders ownership and Sheldon Adelson, who was the big, push behind this. He was one of the big movers behind getting a team to Vegas or trying to get a team to Vegas. He's, of course, the casino mogul, political financier, and otherwise jack of all trades who moves money around like the rest of us, rearrange furniture. He's a player, but apparently the Raiders didn't put his name on a lease document that they submitted to Vegas, and apparently from that created or provoke more ill feelings. Goldman Sachs pulled out of the deal once Adelson wasn't involved, and now the Raiders are, lost in the wilderness?
Well, lost in the wilderness and the Raiders has been synonymous for many years on and off the field. They look better on the field today than they have been before, and it's ironic they're probably caught in limbo between Oakland and Las Vegas as we speak, even though they're filing for relocation papers. All may not be lost, but the commitment of public money backed by the bed tax, and there are, we know, a lot of beds in Vegas and a lot of tourists who do not vote but also pay big-time revenue based on economic impact and major deals. And so the bottom line of all of that is there is public money lined up, and the Raiders, through a commitment from the NFL, have a piece lined up. Adelson, who knows? Really don't know. Is it ego because his name's not on a piece of paper? That can be added. Is it because a lot of people are questioning the direct gambling ties, and it may have been just too much to put in a deal? The NFL, by the way, has been very clear recently, allowing a lot more casino gaming advertising and a lot of other revenues that they wouldn't have even touched a few years ago. This may be too far. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. Really don't know, but the deal's not dead.
Now, was Adelson? They couldn't have pushed the bed tax through, right, without somebody of Adelson's stature from the casino sector giving it his blessing, I imagine.
Well, on two levels. They wouldn't push the bed tax through unless they knew the whole deal was funded, because Vegas wasn't in a position to start a deal. They needed this to finish a deal. Let's remember that the Vegas Golden Knights hockey team starts there in an arena that's already built in about 4 or 5 months. And so they didn't want to lay out more public money for a spec deal, and this needed to be finished. And A, and B, the casino industry needed to sign off to say, look, we like the idea of a new stadium, special events, Final Fours, Super Bowls, the whole thing. And he was a linchpin that spoke for the casino industry. But again, that doesn't mean this deal is dead forever. All it means is that they are in limbo now, and frankly, Dan, the Raiders are used to being in limbo for a long time. So it'll be an interesting few days. I'm going to snoop around for the next couple of days and see what we come up with.
Okay, Rick, I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball, play a little Karnak for me. Is there any way to salvage this deal from your point of view, and how do you think it ends up? And you'll obviously do some more reporting, and you'll be in the mix with all these NFL movers and shakers this weekend. But from your point of view right now, before the game, any way to salvage it? How does it end?
It is capable of being salvaged. I'm not sure it's salvageable over the weekend, meaning we may not get an immediate relocation answer as the NFL wanted to put this to bed Super Bowl weekend. But time is on the Raiders' side. They've already had questions with their season ticket base. So here's my prediction, that they're going to delay this a bit. They're going to give Oakland one more shot, although they've given them 81 more shots. And I do think they'll have a chance, a real good chance, to fill the gap, whether it's Adelson or somebody else. Let's get into a couple of other things, Super Bowl-wise. Television this year is the dawn of a new way to measure, we hope, and we'll see what happens this week. A high rating expected. Everybody who's not going to the game is going to tune in from New England and Atlanta, clearly. But after the game, the Super Bowl hangover ensues, and Heinz Company, maker of Heinz ketchup, claimed more than 16 million people called in sick the day after the game. I think it's 160 million. I don't know about 16. They may not call in sick, but they behave as if they do. So the company wants to start Super Bowl Monday as a national holiday, starting a somewhat tongue-in-cheek campaign by giving its employees a day off, posting on change.org to make it a national holiday. What do you think?
I think it's a national. It should be a national holiday, but exempted for every year teams as boring as the Atlanta Falcons are in the Super Bowl.
Well done.
Giants and the Patriots, if it were the 49ers, if it were the Seahawks and the Patriots, you notice a theme there with the AFC relative strength. But I find a day off, but boy, the Falcons. It may turn out to be a great game. Look, nobody expected the Arizona Cardinals to put up much of a fight with the Steelers a few years back, and that turned out to be one of the greatest games ever. So sure, a national holiday. We'll take one more. We'll be like England. They have bank holidays every 3 weeks, so I'm on board.
The StubHub numbers tell us that they're down about 11% from last year, which may verify the fact that everybody's not as interested in the game as they were last year. The average is still about $4,700, but it changes. It's like the stock market every day. 7% from Mexico and Canada alone, requests from Brazil, Israel, and South Africa. But I think we're all more interested in how the tickets get allocated. Teams, the league, how they give the tickets a certain percentage to certain teams, and how it trickles down to the players. What's your thought on all that?
Well, this is interesting. I had no thoughts on it. It was something I didn't consider. And then, as usual, I had a conversation with you, and I'm now fascinated by this subterranean economy of Super Bowl tickets. It's not like anything I've ever heard before. It seemed to explain it to the listeners a little bit, and let's talk about, the NFL has a big new deal around it, right, with a company called On Location. And let's talk about that a little bit, because I think it's, again, one of the things fans don't realize, and it's a really it's a look into something that they typically wouldn't get a look into. So why don't you lay it out for us a bit?
Yeah, so the bottom line is about 9,000 tickets are available per the contract with On Location Experiences. 1,500 each had to be earmarked for the Patriots and Falcons fans, and brokers short selling Super Bowl tickets in Phoenix. Nobody was getting scammed. Every active player in the NFL still gets 2 Super Bowl tickets, and sources say that roughly half the league's teams handed the players their tickets. The other half make the players pick them up in Houston, which will be harder to flip them. And so players actually, I don't think it's a shock to anybody, use these tickets as a way to make a little bit more money. The tickets are traceable. If somebody is quote-unquote caught, and the tickets are known to be face value tickets. By the way, face value, pretty expensive anyway. I will tell you that the highest priced ticket, face value on it, $3,200 per ticket for the 50-yard line seat.
You're telling me that 26-year-old linebacker in the NFL who's making money that will likely secure his family's financial future for generations scalp their tickets?
Some do. Some bring their family and actually use them. But they get them. They get them as part of their deal. And these are the ones that are probably the $1,500 face ones. And if you are traced with the number that the team identifies as they distribute it, it's not a good thing. Believe me, it's not a good thing. They do it at their own peril.
They should do a public shaming of that. Remember, they should do a public shaming of that, like people who file for bankruptcy in like local newspapers. The NFL should publish that on NFL.com, like the guys who actually lack the humanity to not scalp the.
Lack of humanity is a good word, my friend, because, with the average NFL salary, and we all understand the arguments from the Players Association about how short their careers are, et cetera, but we're talking about $400,000 to $600,000 as a minimum, closer to $1 million soon. And the idea of scalping a $3,200 or a $1,500 face value ticket for $4,000, $500, $5,000, $6,000, well, we'll see. I mean, everybody sees it as an asset. All right, so we're in the middle of a great Super Bowl weekend, and we have some other opportunities to interview the guy from the Houston host committee, as well as the president of the Houston Texans and the guy from the NFL who runs the game. And we'll have those on over the next few days. But let's focus on future games. The team owners continue to reinvest in stadiums, trying to one-up each other. This last year, the Vikings played their first game at U.S. Bank Stadium. That's next year's Super Bowl. In Miami, Steve Ross completes the facelift of Hard Rock. And across the country, the big deal is the $2 billion deal called City of Champions Stadium now, anyway, for the Raiders and the Chargers and the Rams. And when you think about it, and I know this has been my business, the economic impact numbers, if you believe them, directly out-of-towners, add up about $500 million. Public money on this stuff in Houston, for example, much less than the $500 million. So say what you want about spending public money. Super Bowls are a way to show it and a way to excel.
Yeah, I always joke around with you about about this public money use, and I think if you're bringing a town up, if you're a town like Minnesota that has this new stadium and has done wonders in building it. You were there. You were rather impressed with that stadium, and you've been to them all. But you take an investment like that, and you owe it to your cities to try and capitalize it. And taxpayers probably don't mind so much if the game's a success and you're not stuck with like Olympic level infrastructure that you'll never use again, like the overgrown stadiums of Montreal or in China. What's your favorite, or what's the must-have amenity that's being built into these stadiums?
Yeah, very cool. Good question. The must-have is what the last guy had plus a little bit more, and it is keeping up with the Joneses in $1 billion pace. So Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the new one in Atlanta, opens up this year. The retractable roof looks like a butterfly opening. It is tremendous and different, and it opens quicker than one ever before. So that's $1.5 billion. They have a number of different sections for a number of different kind of price seats. Then the game shifts to Minnesota, to U.S. Bank Stadium after it's open for 2 years, and that place looks like a ship where they don't need a retractable roof because the lighting in the stadium makes it look like outdoors even though it's indoors, which is an incredible one-up as well. They also can have basketball Final Four in there and other things, which all these new stadiums are designed to do. Then LA is a big deal because that's $2.5 billion, and that's going to be Hall of Fame West, new TV studio, NFL Network headquarters. So it is basically a football theme park around the stadium itself. So my point is, every stadium does the best practices of the one before, and it even gets better.
Right. I'm looking forward now. You have me looking forward to going out to LA to see that because a football theme park I think is good for all of us.
That part of it, by the way, my friend, is not built with public money. So all those people who are listening on their high horses about public expenditures, don't you put that in the wrong bucket. And by the way, international showcase in these stadiums. And speaking of international, one of the things that we did this Super Bowl week and the week before at the Pop Warner Super Bowl was to focus on global football. The president and founder of global football with a relationship with the NFL is named Patrick Steenberg. He's amazing in the sense that he is the Pied Piper who basically has brought American football to Italy, to Dubai, Tanzania, to a number of countries all over the globe. And when you think about it, this doesn't mean they need big stadiums and NFL caliber football, but there's a lot more grassroots football. 351 teams, 26 countries, 6 continents. Patrick Steenberg, the guy that's really behind it, and here he is now. All of the issues in sports coalesce around dollar signs, but they also coalesce around other things too, which is globalization and youth sports. Without both of those, we can't have any future as far as any sport goes, whether it's American football or the like. And Patrick Steenberg is probably the worldwide expert on global football in, let's say, faraway places. He's orchestrated football tours to places like Norway, Sweden, Finland, Scotland, Switzerland, Panama, Argentina, Japan. He's been involved with the NFL and now is involved in other contexts, including the Pop Warner Super Bowl that we just attended. Patrick, how are you? How's that intro?
Hey, good day. That works for me. I'm sitting here in Mexicali, Mexico today. I've got 53 players from all the top Division III schools in the country to play in the Tazón de Estrellas. This is the 19th year that we're going to play against the Mexican All-Stars, so it's a fun thing to do every year before Christmas.
Well, you are a Christmas gift to football and to kids, to be honest about it, because, you've been involved in the business for over 40 years, communication, special events, international travel, and marketing. You told me the story at the Pop Warner Super Bowl about how you evolved into this. It's one of the world's biggest travel agents, you might say, because the success of your world depends on unique travel contacts, but also a vision that American football can go global. Talk about it a bit.
Yeah, I can remember vividly sitting in my own little office in Granbury, Texas, when I was 44 years old, and my children were growing up, and things were going pretty good. But I had this yearning to get back into football. I'd gotten hurt my senior year at Notre Dame, so the dream of playing in the league was gone, and I got into other things, which had been pretty successful at. But I just really wanted to get back into football, and I wasn't going to start coaching at that point. So I created this idea called global football, with the whole idea of taking student athletes of all different ages at the amateur level, different countries, and exposing them to other cultures, giving them a chance to experience and learn through travel, and then to play the game that I think is the greatest sport that's ever been created, which around the world is known as American football. We just know it as football. So it's been a great adventure, a great ride, and I get to work with some really wonderful people through this experience.
Well, let's talk about how it's working. Obviously, Mark Waller and NFL International guys are proud of the London series, the Mexican game, the Canadian series in Toronto. Everybody talks about that as the highest visible, but yet, in many ways, the backbone of international development are the expats in Germany, the folks who are playing in a solid, fundamental way. You talked about 351 teams in 26 countries and 6 continents. And so what's your biggest challenge?
Yeah, my biggest challenge, I guess, is getting the funding to allow these teams to travel. I mean, who wouldn't want to do it? I provide this opportunity to youth teams, to high school teams, all around, every day I'm talking to some coach somewhere, some league, and they all want to do it. It's just who has the funding to actually do it. But they're great emissaries of the game. They travel, they present the game. We always do clinics for coaches, clinics for kids. In fact, this afternoon here in Mexicali, Mexico, we're going to have about 300 young kids come out after our practice with our Division III All-Star team. They're going to come out, and we're going to do a 1-hour clinic and have these kids sign autographs and coach up a little football. And then tonight the coaches will come over and we'll sit around in the lobby of the hotel doing the same thing. So I'm kind of doing it grassroots, one by one. But yeah, there could be more, I guess, of a unified effort. But it's kind of up to each of the federations around the world, and some of them do it better than others. And of course, there's never enough money to go around, but we're getting it done bit by bit.
The bit by bit is the interesting piece of this as well. Obviously, the NFL had you involved with their international Super Bowl that was part of the Super Bowl festivities as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I remember very well in 1997, I had this idea to present kind of the development of the sport at the Super Bowl, and I walked in, and a couple of guys who gave me an audience, one of them being Pete Abatansi, who is now the assistant to Roger Goodell. This was before there was an NFL international division. There was an organization called NFL Properties that was part of the league. And I just said, look, I want to do a game after the Super Bowl. I want to play real football. I'll organize it, present it, do it, invite the team. You just help me with a little bit of funding. And they said, okay, we'll watch you do it. which they did for a few years. And then in 2001, the NFL basically bought the event from me, paid me to manage it, and it was a great success for 11 years. We did that where we brought in high school age teams from around the world. I remember vividly playing in Houston where the USA team was coached by Katy High School state champion Mike Johnston, and then there was a team from Canada, Mexico, Panama, Japan, and Europe, and it was a really good success. We did that for 11 years, and it was a great opportunity. When I was just down in Orlando, where you and I met at the Pop Warner Super Bowl, one of the big coaches from Finland came up and he said, "Do you remember me? We met in 1999 when he played in that NFL Global Junior Championship. He was part of Team Europe. While he was there, he was seen by some Nebraska coaches who were there scouting the local high schools, and he got a full scholarship, got an education, played 4 years for the Cornhuskers, and then went on and played in NFL Europe. So that was great to get that connection back again.
I saw those Finns play, and those 300-pound linemen, I guess they're destined for Nebraska, right?
That seems to be where a lot of them go.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, the other piece of this, too, Patrick, is the nationalistic instinct, but the opportunity to spread sport and spread goodwill. The UAE team, the United Arab Emirates, really kind of a darling of the event, just getting back from Dubai and Abu Dhabi myself, and to see how excited they were with 53 different nationalities on their team and viewing themselves as kind of the Pied Piper of international football. I guess what it takes is a grassroots effort that spreads kind of organically over the world, and all you do kind of is just facilitate it, huh?
Yeah, that's a really great example there at the UAE. And Patrick Campos, the guy who kind of heads up the league over there, a few years back he just rang me up, which I get emails from all around the world, it seems, every week with an idea to do something, to come somewhere. But I was obviously knew about the Emirates and was curious, so I went over and visited, and I was impressed with their organization. They've got a football league, as you say, from families from all around the world who are there as expats, and they're playing the game. And they came this year to the Pop Warner Super Bowl. They won. They were the champions of our younger division, our junior varsity league, and they do a really good job. But it takes it's just like youth sports anywhere. It takes men and women, moms and dads, and uncles and grandpas who are dedicated to their youngsters to make it happen. So it's fun to work with them and give them kind of an opportunity to showcase their development in the sport, and then also to just have fun playing sports. I think sometimes we all lose track of that when we look at the contracts out there, the coaches hired and fired, and all of that. We lose track sometimes that, hey, sports is all about fun. It's supposed to be young men having a blast out there playing the game. That's what that kind of epitomizes it.
Yeah, clearly. Do we compete in your context for the hearts and minds of the young athlete? Football is the world's game, but not our football. And so are you in a position of having to explain to young athletes why they should try our game versus rugby versus soccer?
I'm not really – I don't think I really have to explain it. I think our game is under attack for sure, because of, the publicity around the concussions, around injuries and things. And it's a tough game. There's no doubt about it. But when I look at myself and what I've been able to do in my life, I look back to my upbringings at, St. Luke Grade School and Erie Cathedral Prep High School, and the fact that I was involved in a football team since I was in third grade, I think helped form me and helped create, whatever I've been able to do to this point. So I think the sport is a great teacher, and I believe in it. And I believe in the ability to learn through travel. I just think, to me, I tell these guys, I was just meeting with this team last night, just saying, you hit the jackpot just being born in America. That you had nothing to do with that, but you were born in America. You have a great, gift there. But you need to go out and explore the world and see what else goes on in the world so that we can have a better understanding and a better global culture, which I believe is part of our world's future. And I think the sport of football does that.
The sport of football does it, and you do it very well. In the merging of travel and education and sport, we're lucky to kind of have you involved in this business. Patrick Steenberg, founder of Global Football. Thanks for listening to this edition of Keeping Score. I'm Rick Horrow. The producer of the show, Alex Cohen. Associate producer, Bethel Habte. Assistance provided by Tanner Simpkins and Carlos Waddick. And the executive editor of Reuters Digital, Dan Colarusso.